Okay, looks like everybody's here. Hi, good morning, everyone. It's good to see some familiar names in the participant list. That's really exciting. I'm glad to see you back. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, welcome as well. I will just remind you that this is part 2 of a session that's going to teach you how to do your registration and timetabling. And so, participating in or viewing the recording that will be posted of yesterday's session around the first year planning guide, that's going to be pretty important for you to take a look at before you move forward today. But those recordings will be posted, recording of today's session, yesterday's session, and Monday's session. Those will be posted by the end of the week. So you'll be able to come back to the Winter Welcome webpage and find all the information that you need to get yourself registered. So my name is Allie Wood-Warren, and I'm the coordinator of the First Year Center. And I have a great team who supports students, all first year students. And I'm going to introduce you, or I'm going to let one of my wonderful team members introduce herself right now.
Thanks, Allie. I'm Liza. I also come from the First Year Center, and I am an academic advisor there. Work with, as Allie said, a team of academic advisors who are super excited to welcome you for this winter term. So thanks for those of you that attended yesterday. We're glad that you've returned, and we're hoping that you're going to find lots of great tips and value in the presentation today.
Yeah, so as Liza said, we work on the First Year Center, and we have a team of registration advisors, academic advisors, and we are here to support you, whether we are in person or as we are now remotely. So nothing really changes in terms of our service and our availability for students. As we move through the slideshow, you'll find we will share with you our contact information, so you'll know how to get a hold of us, and we'll sort of move through the presentation, and you'll get more information as we go. Along those lines, I will say, for right now, I'm going to turn the chat feature off, and then when it's time for questions, I'll turn that back on, and we can see what questions you have. Most of the time we find that the questions that students have actually get answered through the session, and we want you to really just kind of stay focused on what we're talking about, as opposed to thinking about only your one specific question and trying to find an answer to that. This whole session is really, really important. Reminder to everybody that once I do turn the chat on so that you can ask questions that you may have, those will be visible to everyone publicly. So respectful behavior in the chat is important as well. And I'll ask everyone to stay muted. And if you unmute yourself or turn your video on, I'm going to turn that off. So I think those are all my good morning and welcoming. I should say, we've been saying good morning. It might be evening for some of you. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Liza, and she's going to take you through the ways that you're going to timetable and register for courses.
Perfect. Thanks, Allie. So for those of you that joined Allie and myself yesterday, this slide probably looks familiar to you. We talked a lot about how the process to register for your classes includes key steps, and those steps always begin with accepting your offer. Yesterday, we reviewed all of the different programs and faculties, all of the options that the University of Manitoba has to offer you. So we did a great review within the First Year Planning Guide of all of those programs. And then we walked you through how you use the First Year Planning Guide to choose your courses for this upcoming winter term. So we wrapped it up, and today what we're going to do is finalize this process by walking you through the last 2 steps, those being how to go about creating your customized timetable, and then ultimately registering for your classes for this upcoming winter term. As those of you who joined me yesterday and Allie yesterday, this winter course plan should look familiar. By the end of the session yesterday, we had completed a course plan for this upcoming winter term. I think it's really important to note that not everyone's course plan is going to look the same, and it shouldn't. Everyone in the audience has a different focus, a different set of goals. And those will be reflected in the courses that you are going to be putting together as part of your course plan. My course plan really was based on a focus of the Asper School of Business. We talked a little bit about biology yesterday. We talked a lot about how students in the audience may still be exploring and undecided, and that's okay. The first year planning guide and your course plan can reflect you whether or not you're an exploring student or a student who has decided on a singular focus. Either way, all of the planning that we did yesterday and the planning that we're going to do today in this presentation will begin and end in the first year planning guide. So I'm going to pop into the guide now. And it's going to take me here. Again, for those of you that are new to the session today, the first year planning guide is an online interactive guide that really walks you through step by step all of the information that you need to know to plan for your first year. There's a toolbar at the bottom here that allows you to really nicely navigate the guide. I'm going to use the right-hand arrow that you see here on the screen and open up into the guide. Again, just as a quick review, reinforcing these steps to register for classes. We're going to focus today on creating a timetable and registering for courses. And again, our table of contents is nicely laid out to allow us to navigate and find the information that we need to successfully complete these steps and get us ultimately to registering for our classes. For the purposes of today, I'm going to pop back into the first year planning section. I'm going to actually just flow through just to give a quick little review and preview to those of you in the audience who are new. Again, the guide, use it like a flippable book. Again, reinforcing that the information that is in here is really critical to your planning and ultimately to your success as a university student. So I really want to reinforce that when you're flowing through the guide, you don't want to flip through it like a magazine. This really is to be used like a textbook. So if today is the first session for you, make sure you take some time to thoughtfully review all of these sections in this first part of the guide, the first year planning section. For the purposes of today, though, we're going to come back now to the last few pages within the first year planning section, and that's the create your timetable and register for your classes. So the guide really supports both of these last two steps, and the first of these last steps really is creating your timetable. You know, after you've decided which courses you want to take, which we've done yesterday, and hopefully many of you took some time rather last evening to put together your course plan for this upcoming winter term. Now we're going to take those courses and we're going to create a timetable. What you'll find here at the University of Manitoba is that there are a variety of times in which you can schedule your classes. We offer them in the morning, in the afternoon, and some evening classes are also offered. So really the process of putting a timetable together is quite customized because there is a lot of flexibility in when courses are being offered. You really get to modify or create that timetable around your life, your needs, and you as a learner. What you'll find is our lecture periods, and I think it's really important to sort of make note of the change in format of learning this year. Normally we would be talking about you coming to campus, sitting in your lecture classes. That's not happening this year. Everything is being done remotely. But even so, as Ali said, we're trying to, mimic as much as possible what it was like when we would have been on campus. So we do still offer lectures or classes in a scheduled time frame. We offer them Monday, Wednesdays, or Fridays. Those are typically 50 minutes in length. We offer courses also in a Tuesday, Thursday schedule. And then again, we also offer evening classes. Those Tuesday, Thursday courses are a little bit longer in length. They're 75 minutes just to accommodate the fact that you're only going to be in your classes twice per week. And then our evening classes typically are once per week, 3 hours long. So again, lots of different variety for you as you're starting to take a look at how you're going to put your timetable together. You will find that we do use the letters, the MWF for Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and the TR for Tuesday, Thursdays. And you'll see here in the graphic that we have below here on this page that we just visually represented on the timetable planning form exactly what it looks like when we have a class 3 times per week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a lecture class twice per week being Tuesday, Thursday. What you're also going to find with some of the classes that you're going to be registering in, that in fact, some of them have a lab component. In particular, many of our science courses have labs. Those generally run 3 hours once per week. And you'll see that the timetable planning form here does allocate time for you to schedule that lab in. You will also find that some courses, mathematics and arts courses, also have labs. They're a little bit lighter in time commitment. They're generally 1 hour once per week. Labs, generally speaking, this year are also being done remotely. There are a few exceptions to that. So it's going to be really important when we do our planning that you recognize what you are signing up for and what the commitment is for you, whether or not there will be an expectation that you do come to campus for a brief period of time to complete a lab component. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get down into registering for classes. So, really the first step to creating that timetable, and the guide walks you through step by step, is to download or print a timetable planning form. This is sort of going to be the second worksheet that you're going to use in this process. So we started with our course planning sheet. Now we're going to download a timetable planning form. I can do that here through the first year planning guide. Again, remembering that anything bolded and or underlined is interactive, it's hyperlinked, and it's going to take us to an alternate source. This one happens to take us to a fillable PDF. It captures all of the days of the week, and at the moment it's blank because it's going to be the worksheet that I'm going to use to timetable for the course plan that we put together yesterday. So I'm going to be taking these winter term courses that I'm planning on taking, and I'm going to be popping them into the timetable using something called Aurora. We're going to jump into Aurora very briefly, or in the next few moments. When we're taking a look at a timetable, I think it's really important to recognize that you're going to be a student, you're going to have student commitments, but first and foremost, you may also have commitments that are pre-existing. So some of you may be working, you may have family commitments, you may have extracurricular or commitments outside of what is going to be your class or course commitments. This is a great time right
another
now.
Minecraft live stream. Once again, we are going to be joining the Dream SMP to continue.
Oh, looks like we just had someone join us. Thanks for that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
It's a good reminder for folks to make sure that when you're in the session, you are muted.
Yes,
so,
please.
All right, well, off we go. Okay, problem solved. Got it.
So when I have my blank timetable planning form here, this is where the customization piece comes in. Not everyone has work or outside commitments, but if you do, this would be the time to place this into the timetable. So, I might be a student who, works a couple of evenings a week. So Mondays and Wednesdays, let's say from 5:30 to 8, I have a part-time job. This is where I'm actually going to indicate that pre-existing commitment here in my timetable. And the reason that I'm going to do that now is so that when I start to take a look at all of the different offerings of the courses that I'm looking to take, I'm not going to find myself with any sort of conflict. And so work is non-negotiable for me. I want to make sure that I'm able to fulfill that commitment. And so I'm just allocating that time in advance because I know that it pre-exists. So let's go back to the guide. Again, we downloaded our timetable planning form. Now we're ready to take a look at step number 2. And that's really the identification of when these classes are being offered. We, as I mentioned earlier, are going to find that information about when courses are being offered in Aurora. And Aurora is our student registration system. It's where you're going to find information not only about all of the courses and classes that we offer, but it's also going to contain information about you as a student. Before I jump into Aurora, I really wanted to just bring your attention to a video series, and we've got it linked here on the timetable page within the first year planning guide, and it's called the how to register using Aurora video series. If I click on it, it's going to take me to a dedicated page here at the University of Manitoba. We put together this really short and succinct registration video walking you through how it is that you use Aurora. This is what I'm going to walk you through today in this live session. But if you have or need a refresher on the steps that I've gone through, pop into this quick, it's just under 8 minutes, and it highlights all of the steps that I'm going to walk you through today, all the way from timetabling, how do I register for my courses. It has a really great waitlist section, as well as how we go and confirm a registration. So again, the guide really reinforces and provides you with all of the information that you need. So don't forget to revisit the guide in the event that you have some questions at the end of the session today. So let's go and search for those courses that we put together on my course plan. Again, keeping in mind that you probably also have your own customized course plan ready to go as well. So I'm going to pop into Aurora. What you'll see here in the guide before I do so is that we've included some screenshots. So I'm going to show you what Aurora looks like live, but again, you can always come back to the guide for a refresher to really see what it is that I've been talking about in this live session. So we want to go into Aurora, and we're going to be looking for something called the Lookup Classes screen. And this is really where we're going to be able to determine the days and times that courses are offered. We're going to be able to find the different sections, whether it's a lecture, a lab, or a distance course. And we'll talk a little bit about what those are. Each course will have its own course reference number, and it's going to include some additional important information. So I'm going to click on the link here. It's going to take me to the home page and the login page of Aurora. If you are accessing Aurora outside of the guide, which you certainly can, you can just simply go to the University of Manitoba homepage at umanitoba.ca, and under the Current Students tab, you'll be able to find the link to Aurora. When you are logging on for the first time, and again, read the information here on Aurora, it really provides you a step-by-step guidance on how it is that you log on. We're actually going to enter through this secure area. When I click on this, it's going to bring me to the login screen. If you are a first-time user, again, it's going to indicate how it is that you log on. I'm not a first-time user. You as a student will be using your 7-digit student number as well as your birth date the first time you log in. I as a staff member have a slightly different login. I'm going to log in now, but again, keeping in mind that it's going to take us to the same place. So I'm going to log in. Oh, no, it doesn't like my, 1 second.
I think the other thing, I'm just going to pop in here, and if you can, please. Yeah, I think one of the things that we see a lot of in the first year center is we see a lot of students who, they get locked out and they can't access Aurora, and they contact the first year center. On the screen that we just saw, Liza, where she was entering her username and password, there was some information there about what to do if you can't get into Aurora. And so that's pretty important for you to take note of that, because we don't want you calling our office, because then you wait in line to talk to us, and then we have to send you somewhere different. So if you have difficulty getting into the system, or you're locked out, or you're not sure of your password, or you don't know how to get in, it's important that you contact the registrar's office. And I'm going to also put that in the chat as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Pop it in, and I think that to Ali's point, the Aurora screens, as you'll see me going through each of the screens, contains a lot of really great information, especially on how to possibly troubleshoot any issues that you're having. So I know sometimes, and I'm certainly guilty of this, I log into a system and I try and just go to exactly where I need to, and I disregard some of the text that I see on the screens. And then, in hindsight, I realize, oh, actually, they've provided me with a lot of instruction and guidance on how to use the system and how to troubleshoot the system in the event that I'm having some issues, because we do recognize it's a new system. It's not overly complicated once you become familiar with it, but like any new system, it's new to you. And so it does take a little bit of time to become comfortable and proficient. So don't overlook the fact that, again, there's lots of great information for you that is contained on each of the pages.
Yeah, Liza, do you mind actually just letting me share my screen for a sec?
Yeah, go for
If
it.
you could just stop sharing your screen,
Yeah.
though, you have to stop, and then I'll start sharing my screen, and then I'm going to actually show you guys exactly what we're talking about here. So you can see at the top of the page, once I click Enter Secure Area, it actually tells you exactly how to go through and how to actually register. Log in. It tells you right here, first time users, enter your date of birth in 2-digit year, 2-digit month, 2-digit day. And then you have to make sure that you create your password. And it tells you here, if you're new, you can log in the day after accepting your offer of admission. If you're locked out, it just tells you all that information right here. And as you go through and participate and you see what Liza is demonstrating, remember that all of the text is important for you to read. It's very important to read. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'll let Liza jump back in to her presentation and we'll pick up where we left off, so to speak.
Perfect. So when you come onto the main menu, what you're going to notice is that you have some tabs along the top, which are also mimicked here along the left-hand side. When you log onto Aurora, you're going to have fewer tabs than I do. As an advisor and staff, I have a little bit more functionality, but not to worry, the tabs that you have are the tabs that you need. And for the purposes of today, we're actually going to be using the Enrollment and Academic Records tab. What I like about Aurora and what I often use is the left-hand menu along the bottom here. The reason being, and this is sort of to Ali's point, instead of just clicking on the Enrollment and Academic Records tab at the top here, if I do so at the bottom, you'll see that it gives me some prompts and additional information about what I'm going to find when I click into any one of these particular areas. So again, under Enrollment and Academic Records, it's telling me, register. I can view fee accounts here, view a transcript, financial aid, obtain tax information. So again, it gives me some clues or insight into what it is that I might be able to find when I go to that particular tab. So I'm going to click on. It's going to take me here to the Enrollment and Academic Records screen. Again, there are some important student email updates here. Again, reinforcing, as a University of student, all email correspondence and communication must be done through your U of M email account. So if you haven't claimed your UMNet ID, which we talked about yesterday, please go and do that today, because again, as they've said here, make sure you're checking your university email regularly because you don't want to avoid missing key messages.
Yeah, and when we say regularly, we mean every day.
Every day, yes.
Especially in this remote environment, it's very important to check your email regularly every day. I should stop saying regularly. We should start saying daily. But anyways, that's what it is. It's really daily.
Yeah.
But the other thing I just wanted to mention is that often we see students forward, their myumanitoba.ca email address, and they forward that to like a Gmail or an iCloud or some other kind of email program or system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine to do that. But you have to remember that if you are looking at your emails that have been forwarded to a different email address, when you hit reply, it comes from the other email address, not your myumanitoba email address. So that's something that we see often with students, is that they forward their U of M email account to their Gmail, they get the information, then they hit reply because we've said, we'd like you to make an appointment with an advisor, or we have this great opportunity or whatever. And then a student hits reply, and then it actually shows that it's coming from their Gmail. Mm-hmm. So it's really important because all U of M students have free access to Microsoft 365, which is, it's got all of your programs that you're going to need. It has a calendar for you to keep track of things. Of course, Outlook for your emails. It has Word, PowerPoint, Excel, a number of different features that are really helpful for students. So that's what we would encourage you to do, and that's what the instructions are to do that on the U of M website. So just thought I would just throw that in there, only because I'm dealing with a situation right now, just like that, where I'm trying to get a hold of somebody from their U Manitoba email account, and I just can't. So anyway, I'll stop talking again. Continue, Liza. Thank you.
Perfect. No, thanks, Allie. So just as a refresher, we're here on the Enrollment and Academic Records tab. We're trying to get to our Lookup Classes screen, and we do so here through the Registration and Exams tab. Again, it's telling us here, this is where you can go to check your registration time, the class schedule, where you go to add or drop classes. So again, clues to how it is that you navigate the Aurora system. So once I click on Registration and Exams, it takes me here to the Registration and Exams screen. Again, important information for winter 2021. So, if your course is being offered remotely, remote learning is indicated in the where field, and we're going to see this in real time very shortly. If your course includes an on-campus component, this information is indicated in the where field as well. If you are required to be available for specific times, this information is provided under the time and days. If you're not required to be available for specific times, days and times will indicate to be announced. And I think early on in our fall term, as students were starting classes, there's probably a little bit more confusion than there is now. I think we're all becoming a lot more familiar and accustomed to this idea of remote learning or online learning. You're new to the university. So again, just keep in mind that although you will be learning remotely, you will still in many instances be required to participate at specific times during those specific days. And that's why this timetabling process is quite important. So I can't reinforce enough that when you are registering for your classes, although you're not coming physically to campus, you are still expected to participate and log on at the times indicated. When we begin to timetable, this will become a little bit more clear to you, but I just want everyone to be very clear and aware of that.
And I'm sorry. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
Okay,
I put muted again. Sorry. I'm just going to also just dive in here because I know a lot of questions that come from students around this being available at particular times for courses. We know that many of you today joining us are international students. So it's very important for you to recognize that if your class requires you to attend, at 10:30 to 11:30, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's going to always be in Central Time. It's always going to be in Winnipeg time. And if instructors have made accommodations for students to view the materials at other times, then that's a conversation to be had with the instructor of the course. That's not something that we can do anything about. So if you are concerned about the content being delivered, so if your class ends up being at a time that's 3 o'clock in the morning for you where you are, you have to communicate with the instructor to see if there's any accommodation to be made for the time difference for lecture materials, for lectures that are provided. So that's again something to consider. That information, as much of that information as we know, is going to be in the area where in the course itself. But it's important to sort of keep in mind that if it says you need to be available for a certain time, generally there's not really exceptions for that for students who are outside of Canada. Or outside of this time zone, I guess, really.
Yeah, no, and that's a great reminder because I can appreciate that sets up challenges for students for sure. But again, it's for the most part, those dates and times are very specific, and the expectation would be that you are available.
Yeah, and you probably will hear two terms talking about remote delivery, and you're going to hear the term synchronous delivery, and you will hear the term asynchronous delivery. And so synchronous delivery is what we're doing right now. It's live. You need to be present for this. It's happening as we speak, and there's some interactivity. So what we're doing today right now is called synchronous delivery. We're all here together at the same time. There's also something called asynchronous delivery that you're likely to hear or see as you, take a look through courses. And asynchronous delivery means you can do it whenever you want at your own time. There is no, you have to be here at a particular time. So those are two terms that you may hear, and I'm going to pop those into the chat with little definitions just as a reminder.
Perfect. And we'll have some examples when we get to the lookup classes screen to be able to show you in real time what those differences look like. I think to Ali's point, equally important to recognizing that you are going to need to be available during Central Time is in order to be available, that means that you're going to have a computer or device and an internet connection that does meet the University of Manitoba student connectivity recommendations. So there is a link here that will take you to a PDF to walk you through what the recommendations are to ensure that you have the technology necessary to participate. We certainly in our office have had challenges with internet connections. We appreciate that it can sometimes be unpredictable, but doing what you can now proactively to ensure that you're setting yourself up to avoid as much as possible any technical difficulties, given that, for the most part, everything that you're going to be doing, whether it's, through your lectures, the submission of your assignments, the writing of midterm and final exams will all be done remotely and online. So again, making sure that you come back and ensure if at all you have any questions, that there are resources here to walk you through what some of those tech requirements are. When we are on the registration and exam screen, you will see that it opens up quite a bit of functionality here. Here's where we can come back and view our account summary. Gives us some insight into what our registration history is, what is our active registration. We'll come back here at the end of our registration process just to revisit this, but again, just so you know that this is going to be a fairly regularly used screen for you, even after registration, as you come back to check on current registration and possibly fees. So if you remember when we were on our first year planning guide page, looking at how we go about timetabling, we were prompted to go to a lookup classes screen. We've finally arrived within this screen is where we really begin the timetable processing. You'll see here that again, registration for fall 2020 and winter 2021 is open. It's really important again to reinforce, as we did yesterday, many students who began their studies at the University of Manitoba did at the beginning of what we called our regular academic year, and that was at the beginning of the fall term. It's important for you to recognize that registration for the fall and winter terms does actually open in July. So those students that started in the fall term had access to registration for not only their fall, but also their winter term courses, and that was in July. So this is where, as a winter term student beginning their studies here in the winter term, this is where you might find some challenges related to space and courses. And this really is the reason why, because registration has been open for several months, and those students that joined us in the fall term have already secured their registration in their winter term courses. Typically, and this will be something for you to keep in mind next year when you're registering for your fall and winter term courses, the timetable processing process begins prior to registration opening. So you will come to this screen with being able to take a look at the courses that are being offered, but you won't have access immediately to registering for courses. And each student will receive a specific registration date and time, and that will be applicable to you next year when you're registering for your fall and winter term courses. But because registration is open now, you are free to register whenever you want. I would probably recommend the sooner the better, and that's just simply because space does sort of dwindle quite quickly. Again, reading over some of the important details before you go and register for courses, and I'll sort of leave that up to you guys to do on your own. I really want to jump into start showing you some of the pages and what classes look like when it comes time to timetabling. what you will see here is it's prompting us that on the screen, we actually need to select our term, and we're selecting our term for the term in which we're timetabling and then eventually registering for. So for this purpose, we're actually going to find our winter 2021 term. Again, you'll see that there is a whole host of terms available here. Most of them are view only, so you do have the ability to go back and sort of see historically what was offered. But for the purposes of your timetable and registering for this winter term, we're going to select winter 2021. This functionality at the bottom here of submitting is really common in Aurora. You're always going to be asked to action any sort of choice that you're making on a page. So again, I'm going to submit my search by term request, and it's going to eventually and now take us to the lookup classes screen. Here is where we begin to take a look for the subject or of the class that we have on our course planning sheet. If I go back to my course planning sheet, you'll see that the first course that I planned for was the Economics 1020 Introduction to Macroeconomic Principles for the winter term. So economics is the subject, econ, E-C-O-N. I'm going to go back to my lookup classes screen, and I'm going to go and search for that subject. All of the subjects offered here at the University of Manitoba are available. It's in alphabetical order. I can go down and find economics and again, initiate my course search. When we come to the lookup classes screen for economics, it's going to, as you see, bring up a whole listing of all of the economics courses that are offered in the winter 2021 term. It's really important, and I can't stress enough that you aren't choosing your courses on this screen. It's critical that you have completed a course plan first before you come to the lookup classes screen. And the reason is that, because you have access here to all of the courses available in economics from 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 level, if you're choosing your course here on the screen, you could find yourself in a situation where you're choosing a course that is not either available to you or appropriate for you as a learner, as well as for the particular program that you are course planning for. So again, important that you have done that course planning in advance. I'm going to look for the course that's on my course planning sheet. That's Economics 1020. We'll see here, there's a reminder that it's a 3 credit hour course, meaning it's only going to take place in one term. And I want to view the sections that are available for Economics 1020. Again, there is some information here at the top, again, indicating some of the functionality of this screen. I'm going to walk you through what this screen looks like, keeping in mind that this is the screen that we're using to timetable for at the moment, but again, can be the screen that you come back to when it comes time to register for your courses. When we come to the lookup classes screen for this particular section, you'll see if I scroll down, there's multiple entries, and that really comes back to the fact that classes here on campus are offered at multiple times throughout multiple days of the week, and we call those sections. We find here that in the sections box, there are individual categories, and those provide us with specific information related to this specific section of Economics 1020. This particular section of Economics 1020 has its own CRN or course registration number. If I hover over the acronym, it actually provides me again with some more detailed information of what this particular box or field is referencing. It provides me information on the subject. This happens to be economics, the course code 1020. Here is specific information about the section itself. So this is section A01. Here on campus, you're going to encounter 3 types of sections: an A section, a B section, or a D section. In this particular instance, we're taking a look at an A section. This is what we refer to as lecture sections, and those have regular meeting times throughout the week. And in, under sort of our previous circumstances, this would be an indicator or trigger to you that you had an in-person lecture. You were going to come to campus on these specific days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 8:30 to 9:20. But because we are working in this remote environment, if we scroll over to the location section, you'll see here, this is the trigger that in fact, this is a remote learning course, meaning I am still going to need to be available Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8:30 to 9:20, but I'm going to be logging on and joining this particular section remotely. So there's actually no specific location, as in a physical location, it's remote learning. Some of the other information that we find here in the sections box that will be important for us, especially when it comes time to registering for classes, is related to capacity. So you'll see that this particular section, section A01, has a capacity of 185 students. At the moment, and because registration is open, there is actually 185 students registered in this particular section. So this is why here in the remaining column, we actually are noted that there are 0 spots available in this particular section. We do have some information here related to waitlist because some sections of courses do run waitlists, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on when it comes time to registering. And then again, we have some information about who's going to be instructing this particular course and the date range of when this course takes place. So again, starts on the 18th of January and ends on the 16th of April. I can't stress enough how important it is always to read the bolded text here for every section. Again, it provides some really critical information. Again, this is related to the remote learning nature of our courses. And again, just giving you some reminders related to ensuring that you have to be available. And to sort of come back to what Ali was talking about, when you're seeing the times and days to determine if the course has scheduled meeting times, and that is what we call a synchronous class, when it has scheduled meeting times, or there is no scheduled meeting time, meaning it's asynchronous. This particular section, A01, happens to be synchronous because we have regular meeting times, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 8:30 to 9:20. So that's sort of a deep dive into all of the information that you're going to find in each section entry. What you will find as you flow down this page is that Economics 1020 isn't just offered once. In fact, there is another section, AO2, that is offered Monday, Wednesday, Friday as well, but this one is 10:30 to 11:20. If I keep going down, we have another offering, also Monday, Wednesday, Friday, this one a little bit later on in the afternoon, 2:30 to 3:20. And I continue to flow down. Here's a great example of economics being offered now Tuesday, Thursday. Remember, T stands for Tuesday, R is our note for Thursday. This one's 8:30 to 9:45. And if I continue to go down, you'll see we are presented here with this last section entry with a new section code, and this is DO1. So I said earlier, there's 3 kinds of sections, an A, a B, and a D. We talked a little bit about A being the regular lecture meeting time section. D stands for distance education, and it tells you here in the bolded text, this particular section actually has no regular meeting time. So this would be an example of an asynchronous course. So, although you're going to be doing Economics 1020, you're going to be completing this course, viewing lectures at times that do not have regular meeting times. So it's really up to you to schedule in the times in which you're going to be viewing what would be the pre-recorded lectures or the readings that are going to be assigned in this particular class. So again, if you're a student who is concerned about these regular meeting times, especially with the time difference, perhaps a distance section may be a better fit for you because again, there is no expectation that you are logging on at certain times throughout certain weeks. So for the purposes of timetabling, this is really where I go back to my timetable planning form. Here again, seeing that I have. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm gonna just jump in here.
Perfect.
I did get a question in the chat, and I don't know if you plan to address this. The question is really just about this SR in the corner. So C means the section is closed because it's full. And what does SR mean?
Thank you so much for that, Ali. That was a good reminder. So SR means, so C means that it is closed, and actually that's a good, it's a true statement, because if you remember, we talked about how this particular class actually was filled. So this particular section is closed, which is noted by a C. SR means that there are student restrictions. So again, keep in mind that
if you just hover your mouse right over that, it comes up.
Yeah, it does. Just like it does here at the top. So when you hover over CRN, you'll see that it tells you that it's the course reference number. See, Ali, you learn something every day.
I have learned something, and it's a very good thing that Liza is delivering the session and not me, because I'm not the one who helps students with this every day. So awesome. That's good to know. Thank you, Liza.
Yeah. So again, if the section is open, and we, it's actually a great time to chat about this, because we'll be jumping into registration very shortly. But if a section is open, what you will find is that there will be an open checkbox here. And that will be where you actually go and make your selection for the particular section that works for you once you've put your timetable together. So again, the only time that we're really able to register for a section would be if the checkbox is available there. Keep in mind that I'm registered, I've logged in as a staff member as well. So what you may be seeing here may be related to, restrictions, because I'm not a student at the moment. So don't be alarmed if when you log on to your section, rather to your Aurora account, if all of a sudden you have a checkbox for something that I currently have a student restriction for. So if you've got a checkbox, then it's free and open for you to actually initiate and begin registration in that particular section. If I go back to the timetable, or again, just as a refresher, what I'm looking for right now here on the Lookup Classes screen is a section of Economics 1020 that's going to fit nicely into my timetable. At the moment, my timetable is entirely open with the exception of my work commitments here, Monday and Wednesday at 5:30. So what you're going to find when you engage in the timetable exercise, timetabling your first course is very easy, because really without, with the exception of your pre-existing commitments, you won't have any conflicts of other courses to have to manage. As you start to build your timetable and add more courses in, that's when you start to see that the timetable exercise is very much like putting a puzzle together. Sometimes, classes don't fit because they have time conflicts. So it means that you might have to move some courses around based on the information of when those particular courses are being offered. So although I might be selecting a section of Economics 1020 that works for my timetable right now, as I start to add more courses into my timetable, I may find that I might actually have to come back and take a look at when Economics 1020 is offered again, simply because another course might fit into the time slot that I'm choosing now better, especially if there's space in an alternate section of Economics 1020. So I think the key takeaway here is you need to be flexible when you are building your timetable, and know that you might have to come back and shift and move things around. And that's totally normal. It's a very normal process and an exercise that you have to engage in oftentimes when you're building a timetable, especially when you're looking to take close to or a full course load, that full 5 courses in any given term. So, when I took a look at the sections that were being offered, section A06, if I flow down here, you'll see, which has course registration number or reference number 51669, offered Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2:30 to 3:45. That particular section was the one that I chose. I chose it for a couple of reasons. I'm not necessarily a morning person. So although, it was offered Tuesday, Thursday from 8:30 to 9:45, that just didn't really fit for me as a learner. I know that it's harder for me to get out of bed at that time. And I think that that's one point to really be mindful of when you're putting a timetable together. Think about yourself, think about setting yourself up for success. If you know you don't work well early mornings and there is the option for you to possibly take something later on in the day, then that's the beauty of timetabling and why we offer multiple sections. to be able to accommodate you as a student and a learner. So this section, AO6, Economics 1020, I'm going to now take this information that you see here, and I'm actually going to copy it and paste it into my timetable planning form, keeping in mind that it's Tuesday, Thursdays, 2:30 to 3:45. So here's my Tuesday, here's my Thursday. I'm going to flow down, Tuesday, 2:30. I'm going to see if my paste idea worked. Oh, yeah, it looks pretty good. I might make a few little adjustments here. I'm gonna actually put the Economics 1020 there and leave my section AO6. So I've included all of this information, including the course reference number. That course reference number is attached to this section AO6. It is important information to capture now if you can, because it can be useful, especially when it comes time to us talking about wait lists. So I do recommend when you're putting the information into the timetable that you do include the course reference number as well. Again, I'm going to do the same thing here under my Thursday tab, because again, this particular course is offered on Thursday as well, keeping in mind it's the same time. So it's 2:30 to 3:45, and that's my Economics 1020 AO6. So I've included this in my timetable. It doesn't conflict with anything else, still allows me to maintain my work commitment, which is Monday and Wednesday at 5:30. So that really is timetabling the first course that I find on my course planning sheet, which is Economics 1020. The next course that I'd like to demo for you is a course that we chose based on Asper School of Business, but it's a course that you may find in other programs, and that's Calculus, which is Math 1520. If you remember, when we course planned, it indicated in the first year planning guide that this was a lab-based course. So I'm going to go and search up now Math 1520, and I want to use it as an example of how you go about timetabling with a course that actually has a lab. So again, I'm going to go back to my lookup classes screen, and I'm going to, instead of using the back button, I always recommend that you begin your search again by going back to your Enrollment and Academic Records tab, going back to the Registration and Exams function, going to find my lookup classes selection, and again, selecting the term, which is winter 2021, and initiating that search and bringing myself back now to my subject search page. Here's where now, instead of looking for economics, actually going to be looking for mathematics. Again, it's alphabetical. I scroll down, I find mathematics, and I'm going to initiate a course search here at the bottom. And again, just like economics, we're brought to the lookup classes screen for winter 2021 for mathematics. And it brings up all of the math courses that are being offered this winter 2021 term. After careful review in the first year planning guide, I decided upon Math 1520. That was the recommended calculus course that I take. It was a 3 credit hour course. I would like, just like economics, to now view the sections that are available because I'd like to place this course into my timetable. We're brought back to the lookup classes screen, and here you'll see Math 1520 is presented and includes the same information that we found for economics. Again, multiple sections you'll see as I scroll down, offered throughout the week, both Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, as well as Tuesday, Thursdays. So again, still a lot of choice for you with this particular course. What you're going to find as you read over not only the individual sections here, but again, just to reinforce the important information included in the bolded text, is that this is a section that must be taken with a lab. Now, this shouldn't be news to me because I remember that from the first year planning guide, but again, because you're brand new to this process, you may have forgotten that mathematics was a lab-based course. Don't worry. Aurora tells you this, but again, you have to read the information to remind yourself. When we talk about sections, and we did so earlier, if you remember, we talked about our A sections, those being our lecture sections, specific meeting times throughout the week. We also talked about our distance sections. So remember, our A sections were the synchronous meeting sections. Our distance sections were the asynchronous, so they didn't have scheduled meeting times. The last section that you're going to find is related to labs, and lab sections are noted in Aurora as Bs. So if I flow down this particular screen, you'll see here that we start to see B sections. These represent the labs sections that will need to be taken with an accompanying lecture. When I take a look at this lab section, you'll see as I read the bolded text, it clues into me here that this section must be taken with a lecture. So anytime you have a lecture section that must be taken with a lab, those two must be taken together. Not only must you timetable for them together, you must also register for them together. So anytime you have a lecture that needs a lab, you need to not only look for a lecture section that works for you in your timetable, you're also going to need to find a lab section that works for you in your timetable. So when I did review earlier of all of the Math 1520 sections that were available, keeping in mind if I want to go back and refresh my memory of what I have going on in my timetable, knowing that I've already allocated a spot on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2:30 to 3:45. So I know that that space has already been taken. If I go back to the lookup classes screen, Math 1520 actually offers this particular section, which actually is AO2. It's offered Monday, Wednesday, Fridays from 1:30 to 2:20. It tells me here when I read my bolded text that in fact, not only must I take this with a lab, but in fact, it gives me specific requirements of the lab sections that I have the ability to choose from if I'm selecting AO2. So you will find that sometimes Aurora will tell you with a particular section that you must choose a lab that is specific. So it's telling me I can, with section AO2, only choose BO5, BO6, BO7, or BO8. Sometimes, however, with other courses, especially science courses, you might find that the only message that you see here is that you must take it with a lab, and that allows you to have free reign to go and see which lab sections are available and that there is no restriction. So again, just keep in mind that you're always reading all of the bolded text. It's going to give you the best advice as to how you go and adequately timetable and eventually register for this particular course. So when I'm choosing section AO2, I'm going to go down and see what these particular lab sections look like. I'm going to take a look at section BO5 first. Again, it's offered Monday. Remember, lab sections typically are offered once per week, and it's offered from 2:30 to 3:45. If I keep flowing down, I'm going to find lab BO6. This one is offered on Wednesdays. It's offered from 2:30 to 3:45. And I can continue to go and take a look at the alternate lab sections that are available as well. I chose BO6. It's offered on Wednesdays. It's 2:30 to 3:45. It had no conflict within my timetable. So it's going to work really well for me. So remember, when it's time to timetable, I need to make note of not only the lab section that I'm choosing, but I also need to make note of the lecture section that I'm choosing as well. So I'm going to start with the lecture section. Again, just going to copy and paste this information here. Seems to be the easiest way to transfer this over to my timetable. So my lecture section of Math 1520 is offered Monday, Wednesday, Fridays from 1:30 to 2:20. So I'm going to go down and find 1:30. I'm going to paste the information that I had here, and I'm going to try and make this fit in just a little bit easier. Get rid of the 1520 here. And there you can see I've scheduled Math 1520 section AO2. Looks like I lost my course reference number, so I'm going to go back and grab that in a moment. But again, I'm going to complete the timetable process and remember that it was offered 2 other times in the week. So it's also offered on Wednesday. So I'm going to put in Math 1520. Remember, you can type it in as well. You don't have to use the copy and paste function if you don't want to. I just happen to think it was easier to capture that information. And last but not least, I'm also going to ensure that I note that I'm also going to be doing Math 1520 section AO2 on Fridays as well. So here I have my lecture, my synchronous meeting time for Math 1520, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 1:30 to 2:20, and it nicely still fits around everything else that I've already allotted for in my timetable. Now I'm not finished. Remember, this is a particular course that has a lab. I chose lab B06. So I'm going to go back to my timetable and I'm going to put my lab section in, which was once a week, every Wednesday from 2:30 to 3:45. So it happens to fit in nicely, actually right after my Wednesday class. And again, it doesn't have to. You might find that you have a lab section that takes place on a day when you're not even doing math. And that's totally fine as long as it's a section that you find within Aurora, it will work for you. So I'm just going to put in that this is my Math 1520. I'm going to make note that this is my B06. So again, remember that B means that it is a lab, and you'll see here that it's actually going to take place until 3:45. So I'm just going to make a little bit of a note here because my next sort of option or choice that I have here is a 3:30 time slot. So I just want to make sure that I don't actually go forward and schedule anything in. So I'm just going to make note that this actually is ending at 3:45. So here we have it. I've timetabled for calculus, which is Math 1520. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This is my meeting time. Then I'm going to also meet once a week for my lab, which is going to take place from 2:30 to 3:45. And I've nicely accommodated my economics 1020. So you'll see I've actually not found myself in any situation where I've, found a conflict. This may be something that you encounter, and that's totally fine. What you will see here on the lookup classes screen is there are multiple sections. So it really allows you to be able to go and make different choices, shift things around. Again, using that puzzle analogy, you might have to move one piece out to fit a different one in. And that's really the whole process behind timetabling. It's about making sure that all of these pieces of all of these courses fit in nicely to accommodate not only the offerings here within Aurora, but also some of the pre-existing commitments that you might have as a student. So, if we go back to my course planning sheet, again, I'm not done. I have many other courses here on my course plan. I think I've walked you through the steps on how you use the lookup classes function to timetable. So I would again just go and find Anthropology 1210. I would go and find Stats 1000. I would go and also find my religion course. As I'm starting to add those additional courses in, you will start to see that your timetable does start to fill up. So again, looking at alternate sections might be something that you may have to do more intensively as you start to add more courses into your timetable. And that's just a normal process behind timetabling. If I want to now really demonstrate the registration process, which I think I would like to do, I want to reinforce to you that the timetabling step in this entire process is the longest and most time intensive. Registration is in fact the easiest and the quickest part of this entire process. So once you've put a thoughtful timetable together that works, everything fits in, going back into Aurora and registering is in fact the easiest part of this entire process. The first year planning guide, just to come back to the guide, finished off our timetabling. If I flow through to the next section, you will actually see that it ends here with registering for classes. So there is a lot of support here for you on how you go about and actually register for your courses. So it provides you with lots of steps in terms of things that you need to do. I'm going to walk you through live how to do this, but again, just a reminder that in fact, the guide does support this final step for you. When it does come time to registering, and I'm going to go back to the enrollment and academic records tab because that's really where we always start any sort of timetable or registration step that we're going to be doing in Aurora. I'm going to go back to my registration and exams tab because again, this is where I'm going to be able to not only look up classes, but possibly now go and register for classes. It's going to bring me to our larger menu. And I made reference to this a little bit early on, saying that, you might come back and take a look at this more regularly. There are two ways to be able to register for courses in Aurora. The first one is actually using the lookup classes screen. So not only can you use it to timetable, it can actually be the screen that you go back and use to register. You may also want to use the add or drop classes function. And this is the one that, for the purposes of today, I'm not able to demonstrate simply because I'm not a student. And so if I were to click on the add or drop classes function, it won't actually bring it up for me. But either way, whether you go through lookup classes or add or drop classes, it's going to actually eventually take you to the same screen. And that would be the screen that we used for timetabling. So if I want to go and use it through the lookup classes function, I'm going to again quickly go through the same steps we did earlier. Now, keeping in mind that I'm not doing this for timetabling purposes, I'm now using it for registration purposes. So I click on Winter 2021, I submit. The first class that I had on my course plan and in my timetable was economics. So I'm going to go and find economics now. Going to initiate a course search. Here, I'm going to find my economics 1020. Again, this is all review. We've just done this. You'll see here, this looks very familiar because we've ended up exactly where we ended off with timetabling, back to the lookup classes screen. Here's where some of the fields that we found in the sections are of more importance to us now, because we've come back here knowing that it's this particular section that we chose. So if we go back to our timetable, we chose section section A06 for economics 1020. So I'm going to go and find my section A06. I'm going to scroll down. Section A06, Tuesday, Thursday, 2:30 to 3:45 worked really well in my timetable. Now I'm going to be taking and paying more attention to the fields related to the space available in this particular section. And that's where we come to the capacity, the actual section, or the actual spaces remaining. And this is of importance now when it comes time to registering, because as you see here with section A01, this particular section was actually filled. So this would be an instance where if I were coming back to register for this particular section because I had timetabled it, I would go and start taking a look at alternate sections and begin the process of going back and forth between my timetable to see if there was another section that in fact had space. You'll see here that section A02 has a capacity of 185 students. Right now, 184 students are registered. So in fact, this particular section has one space remaining. So in theory, if I was an active student, there would be a checkbox here for me to go and make a selection and register for the section, provided that it now fit into my timetable. For the purposes of my timetable, I know that section A06 works for me. And in fact, if we take a look at the capacity, this particular section, although it has a capacity of 185 students, 124 are registered, there are actually 61 spaces left in this section. So I, in theory, if I was a student, would have a checkbox here. So I would check this box off, and then I would simply scroll down to the bottom of the page. Remember, Aurora is always going to ask you to initiate or engage some sort of action. And what I would find here, if I were an active student, would in fact be a submit and register button. Rather, it says register. So I would be able to select this and register for my course. So it is as simple as that. All of that front end work of taking a look at all of the different sections, creating the timetable that accommodated each of the sections of the courses that I'm looking to take, resulted in a very quick registration for me in economics 1020. What you may encounter in some situations, and I'd like to take a moment to talk about this, is courses that are running something called a waitlist. So you will see that there is a WL, a waitlist section here. It relates to capacity, actual as well as remaining. So very similar to the actual spaces available in the class, but now it's being referenced with something we call a waitlist. So some courses have chosen to run a waitlist. And what that really means is at the point in which this particular course reaches its capacity, some sections of courses have decided that they're going to run a wait list. This allows a student to place themselves on a wait list, get in line, so to speak, for a spot that may become available. So if I placed myself on a wait list for section A01 in Economics 1020, and students started to drop their actual registered spaces in this particular course, it may mean that I might be offered a space on this wait list. There are a few things that I really want to caution you about related to waitlists, and it really is related to the fact that waitlists are not a guarantee of registration. So if your intention, and my recommendation would be this, is that by the end of your registration, you want to ensure that you are registered in a certain number of courses for the winter term. You want to ensure then that you have successfully registered for that number of courses. If you want to be in 5 courses, as an example, then my recommendation would be to go and find 5 courses that have space in them. If I register in 4 courses, but place myself on a wait list for my 5th course, I'm actually only registered in 4 courses, and there is no guarantee that space is going to open up in that course that I have waitlisted myself for. So again,
could you please say that again, Liza? It's very important that students hear this, because as Liza has said, you know, you don't get a spot.
You don't get a spot. And
not get a spot necessarily if you're on a wait list.
That's right. And you know, there is information here for us to really clue into as well. So, and you know, the waitlist capacity and remaining are, you know, inflated numbers. So again, you know, although it says there are 999 spots to place yourself on a waitlist for, the reality is that, you know, if that number of students were on a waitlist for a class that has a capacity of 185, that's just never going to happen. These are just default numbers that the system is using. Really, the important number to be looking at here is in the actual column. So at the moment for this particular section, 2 students are on this wait list. So, you know, that's a relatively low number. If I scroll down, and I'll see here that in fact, there aren't students on wait lists actually for any other section. So this happens to be a section, the only section that's running a wait list. Here is where I would pause to say, this is a great example of where you need to be flexible. Because there is space in alternate sections, this is where I, as an advisor, would say, now it's time for you to go back to your timetable and see how you can fit in one of these alternate sections if Economics 1020 is the class that you want to take. Because if I take the risk, and it is absolutely a risk, to place myself on this waitlist for section A01 and hope that 2 students drop spaces in this course to allow me to be able to access a spot on the waitlist, I'm really putting myself at risk of not getting a space in Economics 1020. And because there is space in alternate sections, if Economics 1020 is an important course,
you're kind of cutting out a little bit. So
am I? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, but so, that's okay. You're back now. So okay, perfect. Go ahead.
So I would just say that the important takeaway here today is, if a course is important to you and also important to the program that you are course planning for, you need to do all that you can to find space that is available now and not to rely on wait lists, because again, to Allie's point and to my point, wait lists are not a guarantee of registration. So, you know, does it mean that you can't put yourself on a wait list? No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, when you are in a situation where you come across a course where there is space in alternate sections, you really need to now go back to your timetable and start to take a look at, can I actually slot in Economics 1020 somewhere else based on the fact that there are actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other sections with available space for this particular course. I don't know, Ali, if you wanted to reinforce any other message, or do you feel like that captures the
I
message
hope,
related to waitlist?
yeah, so I did get a question through the chat. So just maybe talk a little, I don't want to spend a lot of time on waitlist.
No.
The general message that you know, we as advisors and support staff helping students is, if you can get yourself in a section, any other it's more important to get yourself in a section than put yourself on a wait list and hope for the best. And so if a course, especially if a course is required as part of the first year of your program, it's going to be very important for you to try your best to avoid putting yourself on multiple wait lists and get yourself actually registered in courses. That's very important. We know that, you know, we've talked about, you know, how students starting in winter term are frankly, you know, in terms of registration, a little, you may have a little bit more difficult time finding open spaces in, you know, the right section, the perfect section for you. But that's, there's no sort of magic workaround that. Often in January, the questions that we're hearing from students are, but I can't get into any of my required courses. I'm only on a bunch of wait lists. So what should I do? And the answer is, you should keep trying to find alternative courses to register in, as opposed to leaving yourself on a number of wait lists. So the wait list, it actually holds your spot. So what happens with wait lists is, and I will use this example that Liza has here, CRN 51666 AO1 Econ. So right now there's 105 students registered in that course. 2 people have said, I want to be next if someone drops out. That's basically what that means. And so when one person leaves, person number 1 on the wait list will get an email, or person number 0 actually. So there's actually 2 on the wait list, but nonetheless, you're going to get a notification to your U of M email account. And that goes back to us talking about the importance of claiming your UM Net ID and getting your email account, because that's the way that you're going to be notified. Hey, there's a spot available for you. That does not mean, if you see that email, that does not mean, oh, I got my spot. Delete email. It means now you have been notified that you have a spot available that you can claim by going back into the registration system. So you have to go back to registration, and then you have to tell the system that you want to move yourself from a wait list to being registered. So if you're on a wait list and it's your turn and your spot comes up, you still have action to take. It's also important to notify, or to keep in mind, you know, at the beginning, Liza and I talked about making sure that you check your U of M email account every day. This is another reason why, because your waitlist spot will only be held for 24 hours from the time that the student drops. So if I am in the course and Liza is on the wait list and I drop that course at 11:30 at night, at 11:31, Liza is going to get an email that says, there's a spot available for you in the course. You have 24 hours to claim it. If Liza doesn't check her email address or her U of M email account the next day, she's actually going to lose out on that spot. And there is nothing that we can do to get her back into that spot. So if you, you know, being aware of the waitlist situation is pretty important. Unless, you know, if you even if you're registered in a class, because if you mistakenly drop this course, then that's another, like, if there's a wait list, we can't put you back in because somebody else automatically gets your spot. So I hope that sort of makes sense. Wait lists can be a little bit confusing for brand new students. It probably seems, you know, it's just something that you need to keep in mind. And again, reminds you to be diligent. It reminds you to double check your registration. It reminds you to make sure that you're checking your email, your U of M email account every single day, in particular if you're on a wait list. Because again, if you miss that notification and you do not go into Aurora, that spot gets offered to the next student in line.
That's right. And when a spot is actually being offered up to a student, and this is why waitlists can be confusing to students and to staff as well sometimes, is that you will see for this particular section, if a student had dropped their spot in this particular section and this section is running a wait list, when that spot is being offered up to the next student in line, we will actually see that a number pops into the remaining column here. So it's really important that when you are looking at sections and making choices about what you do and do not want to register, any changes that you want to make to your registration, that you are being very careful and thoughtful to read each individual column and make sure that you understand when it says that there's remaining space, is it because they're running a wait list and a spot is being offered up at the moment? Or is it genuinely because, in fact, there is space in this particular class? And so you'll see that's where the actual column really comes into play. And as well as taking a look to see if, in fact, there is actually a wait list being run in this particular section. So, and if at any time you have questions related to wait lists, you have some level of confusion, you can always contact us in the First Year Center, but I would refer you to, and again, we linked to this through the First Year Planning Guide. We put together the How to Register Using Aurora video, and we have a 2-minute section dedicated to waitlists. So you actually don't have to watch the full video. You can just jump to waitlists if you would like, and we walk you through step by step how it is that you could put yourself on a waitlist. And so again, it's a fairly straightforward process, but if you have questions and would like some guidance as to how to put yourself on a wait list, go back to the How to Register Using Aurora video, and it will walk you through step by step. And that's where that course registration number comes into play. So that's what you're going to be using when it comes time to placing yourself on that critical wait list. But my hope, honestly, is that you're not going to have to be doing a lot of work with wait lists. My hope is that with really good timetabling and a lot of flexibility, that you will be able to, by the end of your registration, be able to register and confirm registration in the number of courses that you plan on taking for this winter term.
Thanks, Liza, for letting me jump in. I'm going to
Yeah,
mute
no,
again,
that's
but
perfect.
before I do that, I'm just going to let students in this session know that even though I did say I turned off the chat function, you can still chat directly with me privately. So if you have any questions, that's how I'm coming up with these questions, where students are sort of asking them. And I think what I'll do is, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And if there's value in sharing that all, if there's value in sharing the information more widely, then I'll just kind of pop back in and we'll talk about some of those things. So if you do have specific questions, again, these cannot be questions about your own very particular circumstance. We're going to show you at the end how to get in touch with an academic advisor. And I want to also remind folks that questions about course selection, we covered that yesterday. And so, by the end of this week, there will be a recording of yesterday's session, which will actually help you to understand the First Year Planning Guide a little bit more than we're going into it now. We really did how to select your courses and how to decide which courses that you will register in. We did that in a session yesterday. And so questions about that, I'm not actually going to address, other than to say you need to go and watch yesterday's session. So I'm going to let Liza keep talking. I'm going to dive in and answer some chat questions here, and I'll pop back in shortly.
Perfect. Thanks, Allie. And again, actually, just to reinforce what we talked about related to waitlists, and here's a great reminder again that Aurora actually does answer a lot of these questions. There's a nice red note here to say, if there is a checkbox to select a course and it's available below, but there is a wait list for that course, meaning there is a number under the wait list actual, the course is full. Remaining space is currently being offered to a student already on the wait list. So really, to Ali's point, the reason why there is a checkbox there is because that particular section now has an available space for someone who has been notified to their U of M email and will be coming back to this screen to check this box off because they are the person that is having this particular spot held for them, but only for 24 hours. So again, super important that you're checking that email daily, especially if you're on a wait list, but not only because you are, but especially because you're on a wait list, because once that 24 period is over, this is an automated system. There is no intervention that Ali, myself, or anyone else at the U of M can do. It automatically sends it along to the next person in line. So again, questions about wait lists, contact us at the First Year Center. Also refer to the How to Register Using Aurora video if you want a sort of a step-by-step 2-minute walkthrough of how you place yourself on a wait list. If we go back now and really just think about the fact that we've timetabled, and in theory we've timetabled for our 5 courses. We've followed our course plan. We've made some adjustments. We've been flexible. Maybe we had to go back to the first year planning guide. Maybe we had to go back to our program planning page to find alternate courses. Perhaps we had to go and revisit the recommended introductory courses list because those courses that we were using in those open categories were filled. Now we have to go and possibly find alternate courses. So again, especially as a student starting in the winter term, being open and flexible and understanding that some modifications might need to happen is really going to result in you getting the number of courses that you want for the winter term. Once we have completed registration, so once I checked the boxes off for all of the courses that I've wanted, gone through the same process that I did with economics for each and every course that I have in my timetable, remembering to register at the bottom. Registration will be complete. You won't receive any email or notification as long as you have gone through the registration process correctly. You are now registered and responsible for the registration in all of those courses. And there are a couple of screens that you can visit in Aurora to confirm your registration. And I would strongly recommend that you do this to ensure that you have successfully registered in the courses that you believe you registered in. And we do that again through our registration and exams tab to get us back here to this main menu, the one that I said we're going to review and come back to regularly. Again, we've done our timetabling through lookup classes. We may have also registered through lookup classes. Possibly some of you in the audience might be using the add or drop classes screen to register for your courses. That's totally fine. Once you've registered for your courses, there is actually a week at a glance function, which will show you in a timetable form what your week will look like once you've registered for classes. So it is actually an online timetable that reflects your confirmed registration. So that can be one place to go to confirm your registration. You can also go and take a look through a student detail schedule. This is a screen that will also show you not only the courses that you have registered in, but this is also where you can go to confirm any registration in or on rather wait lists. So if you want to know what your spot on a wait list is, you can see that through the student detail schedule. It will provide you in real-time updates as to what place you are on that wait list. Are you number 2? Are you number 20? The student detail schedule screen will confirm that for you. Some of the other screens that might be of importance and note to you, one of them is the view account summary by term. I'm going to actually just take us to this screen because I think it provides us with a lot of really important information. And I think, one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give to you as an advisor is be informed. take the initiative to find the information that you need and be on top of that information, whether that means you have to reach out to an advisor, but many instances, the resources that are available to you do actually provide you with answers to the questions that you might have. And that really is the case here with the account summary by term. Once you have registered for your classes for this upcoming winter term, you will eventually be required to pay fees, and those fees will actually be detailed here on the account summary screen. There is information and links to different services on campus. So again, a link to financial services. So if you want some information on how you go about paying your fees, we have a link on how it is that you can go and pay fees, because there's quite a few different options. So again, look for the information. It is in many ways available to you, especially within the resource that you might be using at that time. So again, some important information about student fees as well. The UMSU Health and Dental Plan, that I would say would be something that I would encourage students to check into and do some exploration on. And again, there will be a detail here, again, because I'm not a student and I'm not registered. I don't have the details of what my fees include, but I would say it's really important for you to know what you're paying for as well. So come back to the screen, display all of the details, and really know what it is that you are paying for as part of your tuition, so that you can be an informed student and that there are no surprises later on. So I think really that sort of wraps up where I would refer you to within Aurora. There's so much information here, but for you to be able to complete those final two processes, timetabling and registration, that really is all done in Aurora. And I think that we've nicely seen that today. What I think I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the presentation. Just bear with me here. Perfect, and here we are. So, I think it's just an important note to understand that although my registration today, or my demo of registration, was pretty seamless, we did talk about some of the situations that might arise. And you may find yourself in a situation when you do try and register for a particular course that you encounter a registration error. And not to, say this too often, Aurora really does provide you with information to help you troubleshoot in the event that you do encounter errors. And probably one of the most common errors, and that's what I'm showing on the screen here today, that you will find when you are registering is a prerequisite error. We talked a lot about prerequisites yesterday. Prerequisites can come in two forms. One, it could come in a high school prerequisite. So perhaps there is a grade 12 or a 4DS course that you needed to be eligible to register and take a particular course here on campus. Also, there may also be a university level course that is a requirement. So if you don't have the proper prerequisite, Aurora is actually going to provide you with an error and is not going to allow you to continue with your registration. So again, pay attention to these errors. We often get calls from students saying, I can't register in this course. We refer them back to the error. Please tell me what the error is, because again, that's not only helpful to you, but it's also helpful to us in the event that we do have to help you troubleshoot the situation that you might be encountering. Again, just a final slide is a quick review to waitlists. Again, it's not guaranteed space in course, so do all that you can to find space in sections of courses that you want to take for this upcoming term. Remember to check your email daily. You will only be given 24 hours to register. You can't waitlist if you're already registered in a section of a course. So again, it is a choice between either waitlisting or securing registration. I would say from my perspective, there is no choice. If there is a section that has space, then I would say move forward and register in that course in lieu of placing yourself on a wait list. Not all courses offer wait lists either. So again, it's not a functionality that you're going to find across the board. And again, you can find all of the information that you need on how to place yourself on a wait list on that dedicated video that we did create, the how to register using Aurora video. Last but not least, I think I just want to draw some attention to important upcoming dates. Once you've registered for your courses, now you're really ready to start taking a look at the term ahead of you. And there are going to be some important dates and deadlines that is going to be your responsibility to ensure that you understand and adhere to. I've taken a screenshot here of an important dates page that we found in the first year planning guide. So again, the guide contains all of the information that you need to know. If you feel like you want to take a picture of this, keep it in your phone. I would strongly recommend going back to this section within the guide and start to put some of these key dates in your phone. I think that that's one of the things that successful students do. They plan in advance and they aren't surprised by dates and deadlines that they know in advance. And so again, just a few reminders. University opens on January 5th and the fall term begins on that date. And again, when I say the university reopens, that doesn't mean for in-person classes. That just simply means that we are all back at work because we do take a holiday break at the end of the fall term, but university business resumes on January 5th. There are a couple of important dates that I want to highlight for you. January 18th is the first day of classes. So you may have some questions for us on the 5th, but in fact, you will be beginning your first day of classes on the 18th. So you'll want to be ready to log on to Learn for your courses.
Liza?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to dive in here for a quick sec again. So there's questions coming about like, how do we know, how do we access our course material? How does that happen? How do we know what to do sort of on the first day of classes?
Those are great questions.
Yeah, they're really good questions. So I just wanted to let people know rather than type this 50 times, because anyone who I've been typing with, they can tell I'm not that great at typing. But anyway, rather than just type this all in the chat, I just want to remind everyone here today that we will actually be sending you information about more events that are going to help you get ready for the winter term. So you will be receiving an email which will let you know about our prep days. So on January 13th and 14th, we'll be offering what we're calling University Winter Welcome Prep Days. And those are 2 days full of sessions that are going to help you get ready for being a university student. So there will be sessions in that event which help you to learn how to learn remotely. Like, you don't know how to do that right now because you've not had to do that at university. And so we're going to take you through that process and help you with some strategies for learning remotely. We're going to help you with some sessions around academic writing. That's often very very intimidating for students as they're joining a post-secondary or a university institution. So we'll share some sessions with you around academic writing, about time management or using your time more effectively. We'll send you, there'll be sessions on not just study strategies, but learning strategies. So you get a better sense of like, how do people learn? Many people think, oh, if I just read my textbook over and over and over, that's good studying. That's actually not good studying. That's not how we learn. We don't learn by putting things into our brain. We actually learn by taking things out of our brain. So that's self-testing and questioning yourself to make sure that you know the material. That's a better strategy to use than just reading your textbook over and over and over. And so those are the kinds of things that we're going to go through during prep days. We certainly don't expect you to attend all of those sessions because it really is 2 full days of sessions. But you'll be getting information about, you know, what that looks like, what the schedule is, how to find it. The website that I've put into the chat a number of times, and I guess I can do it just one more time, just for fun here. The Winter Welcome webpage is going to have all of the information that you need. So check back on this page pretty regularly, not necessarily daily like your email, but regularly, I would say. And some more information will populate there as we get those things ready to go. So you're going to have a prep days, which is going to be 2 weeks of sessions that are designed to get you ready to start school. We're also going to have Welcome Day, and that's going to be on January 15th. And there's where you're going to meet some, you know, you'll be connected with some other students. There'll be faculty sessions. There'll be, you know, a session that we offer through the First Year Center for all students to sort of take you through these like critical things. So like tomorrow you're going to be a student. What happens basically, right? So we know that you don't know all the answers, and we are here to help you. And so before we go on to the calendar, I just wanted to let you know that there will be some things that are going to happen prior to January 18th, prior to the first day of classes, and watch both your email account that you applied with and watch your U of M email account for information about those offerings. So yep, I think the other question is, the other thing I just wanted to dive in here is that, you know, I know there's a couple of students who in the chat are sort of, they have questions about like, how do they pick their courses, and, you know, it's sort of that personalized things. I'm going to put an email address here. Actually, yeah, I'm going to put an email address in the chat. And if you have more particular questions about, you know, course selection, how do you choose your courses? What I'm going to tell you is use the first year planning guide first. That is critical. Before you talk to an advisor, they're going to expect that you will have some sense of courses, some sense of what you're targeting. Even if you're undecided, that's totally okay. And we're going to help you to figure out, you know, how do you choose courses for programs that, you know, you don't even know about yet. And so we'll do that. The key thing is, before you contact us, before you send us an email, we really want you to look at the first year planning guide, or review the sessions that will be posted again on the UM Commons Winter Welcome page. It's really important because, you know, as I mentioned in our first session, we have about 1,500 new students starting in winter term. And so that's why we kind of put this session together. The vast majority of students are going to participate in these sessions and be able to go forward and do the registration, and that's great. But for those who may have additional questions, that's fine too. We know you don't know how to do this. You've never registered for courses at university. You've never had to pick a degree program before. So we totally understand that this is challenging, confusing, scary, all those sort of things. It can also be really exciting. But, you know, we're here to help you. But it's not just us telling you what classes to pick. It's us working together to help figure some of that stuff out with you. We don't do things for students in the First Year Center. We do things with students. And so again, you coming to the table with some information and some background and some general sense of how to do things is really important, because the advisors don't have the capacity to do this kind of session with every student. So I guess I just wanted to sort of put that out there as well, that, you know, we do want to help you. I don't want anyone to get the sense that, you know, the answer to how can I get more help is watch the session again, because I know that's kind of what I'm saying in the chat. But it's really important that you do have very specific questions for an advisor. You know, I don't know what to do with my life is kind of not really something we can address in an email format, right? So, so I think, again, just, you know, doing the best you can to seek information so that you come to the table with a basis of information, like some kind of like, you know, we're all sort of start from the same place, and then we can work up from there. So I'll put the email address in the chat one more time. And again, I would just remind you that it's really important to look at the first year planning guide and formulate some specific questions before you email them to us. And
Perfect.
I'm done talking again, so.
No, that's great. It's a great reminder.
Back to January 18th.
Yeah, so to Allie's point, we'll certainly provide you with some more information on what your first day of classes looks like, because it's definitely going to be different than probably what we all thought. We're not going to be descending onto campus.
Sorry, the other thing is, like, you won't even have, like, lots of students want to try to access their courses now. You do not have access to those. There is nothing you can actually do in advance related to your course material. You can't start looking at it now. It's not accessible until the first day of your class.
Yeah, no, that's a great reminder.
Yeah, thanks.
I think really the most probably timely deadline that I just wanted to draw your attention to, because again, there's quite a few deadlines here on our important dates page, which I will leave to you to ensure that you're aware of them. But the ones that I think are of significant importance and are related to your course registration would be the date of January 29th. That's actually the course drop date. So it is the last day that you're able to drop any of the winter term courses that you may have registered for this winter term. Some of the reasons why students may drop a course in what we call the revision period. So by the day that you register all the way through to January, the last day to drop a class, so in this term would be January 29th, we call that the registration revision period. And that's really your time to be able to make revisions to your registration. By the 29th of January, you will have spent, a good week and a half in your courses that you've registered in. You may find, for example, that it's too much of a workload. Perhaps you registered for 5 courses and you're realizing, I don't think that this is a good course load for me to ensure success in my courses, and therefore I'm going to decide to drop one of my courses. If you do that on or before January 29th, you will not be assessed fees for that particular course. So, between the 18th and the 29th, my biggest advice to you is to, be thoughtful and realistic about the expectations in each of your courses. What are they asking you to do? What are they asking you to do in each of your courses, and how does that all work together? Are you able to ensure that you're going to give the time and attention that all of those courses do need? So again, that is also a great time in which you may want to check in with an advisor as well. If you've started classes and you're to have some decisions that maybe you want to make, that's really the role of an advisor, is to try and help support your decision making. So we would be happy to connect with you during that period of time if for some reason you have questions as you approach that course drop date. There are going to be other instances throughout the winter term in which you will be able to withdraw from a course. So we do have something called a voluntary withdrawal date, and that, happens again in March. And so, there will be opportunities for you to get out of a course without having any sort of academic penalty. But as far as fees are concerned, after January 29th, you have paid for and are responsible for the fees and any of the courses that you choose to stay in.
Can I jump in again one more time?
Yeah, go for it.
Liza and I, in the first year center, if students require any kind of academic concessions, so if they need some assistance, like they need to be withdrawn from their courses because of medical or compassionate circumstances, or if something terrible happens to a student during the term and they can't continue the term, students will make requests to us. And Liza and I are the folks in the first year center who review those requests. And undoubtedly, every year, we have a number of requests from students who say, please withdraw me from my courses because I have F's on my record and I owe the university money, but I registered for my courses, but I didn't actually take them. I didn't do my courses. I didn't start my courses. I didn't pay my fees. So I thought I would just be dropped from all my courses. That is not how it works at the university. After January 29th, if you cannot complete a course, if you do not, complete a course, um, you don't get your money back. There's no getting your money back. There's none of those things. It's very important during the registration revision period. So this period of time that we're talking about right here, you have to be mindful that you need to make sure that on January 29th, if you're still in courses, you're going to have to pay for them and you're going to get grades assigned in those courses based on the work that you submit in the course. So if you don't do any work in the course, you're going to get an F and you're going to owe the fees to the university. And so this date is really, really important. If by January 29th, you have decided you will not be attending the U of M for the winter term, you need to go back into Aurora and drop your courses. Nothing happens automatically. There's no system that recognizes that you didn't take courses or that none of that happens. So this is really quite an important date, the January 29th, because again, after this date, if you take no action, you will owe fees and you will get grades. So make sure that you keep that date in mind. That's a really important date.
No, I think it is a great reminder. And I think, because this year is different than probably what most of us are used to in terms of the remote nature, you may not know until you start classes whether or not it's going to be the platform or the best fit for you. The time difference challenge for some of our international students, you're probably not going to fully appreciate how that may or may not work for you until classes start. And so that is why the university does provide that window of opportunity for you to drop those courses for whatever reason you are choosing to do so, but you must initiate that drop. That will not be done automatically for you. So to Ali's point, after the 29th of January, whatever you have remained registered in will be what you will be paying your fees for. And that takes us to probably the last date, and that is February 17th. And that is in fact when your winter 2021 fees are due by. So just important for you to make note of these dates and also understand the implications of what these dates mean for you. And if at any point there is any confusion about the implications, that's when we would just ask that you reach out to us in the First Year Center. So you can do that, as Ali's, I think, put in the chat several times, fycenter@umanitoba.ca. We're also available over the phone Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 Central Time here in Winnipeg. And we would be happy to chat with you over the phone and possibly book you in to meet with an advisor if that is something that we've identified would be best for you. So that's all that I have related to the timetabling and registration process. Probably my last piece of advice to you would be don't delay with this. I would get on this as soon as possible. As you could see just from the example that we used with economics and mathematics, a lot of space has already been taken up. Many students have already registered for various sections within the winter term. So, your best chance of success of finding space in courses is to register as soon as you can. And because registration is already open and has been open, the sooner you can get on that, definitely the better. So Ali, I don't know if you have any parting remarks or anything that you wanted to end with.
I don't actually have anything other than to say thanks again for everyone, for attending today. I know this can be, this whole choosing courses things. Again, I just want to sort of say that, we know this is challenging for students, and we know that you don't know how to do this, and we are here to help you. We really want to help you. Our advisors, they truly love helping students. And so, don't hesitate to connect with us if you have challenges or questions, not just now, but throughout the school year. And something that I talked about yesterday a little bit was, we're not here just to help if you have problems. We are not here just to help you solve, your challenges. We're also here to cheer you on when you did really well. We love hearing those stories from students. We love hearing, that you were able to register successfully, and those are great things too. We want you to keep in mind that there's advisors available, and we really want to help you with anything that you experience through the term. And so please don't ever hesitate to reach out. You can meet us. We can have an appointment over the phone. International lines, that's fine. We'll call you so you don't have to incur costs. We'll do a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams meeting with you so that you have this live sort of video conferencing type of situation. There's lots of different ways we can connect. If we have to, we can do by email. It's really hard to provide academic advising via email because there's so many options that students may have. So, keep that in mind, is that, what courses should I register for is not really an email question. It's more of a conversation that needs to happen. And so if you're looking for, for information, or you want to connect with an academic advisor, let us know and we'll be there to help you no matter what. And again, you will be getting more information about events coming up that are going to help you get ready for January 18th, the big first day of classes. So I think that's all I have to say. Again, I'm not going to put it in the chat again because I've put it there 50 times. Not because of anything other than me. I just keep putting it in there. I don't know. Anyways, so the chat does actually have the link to the winter welcome. It's easy to find if you just go to umanitoba.ca in the search winter welcome. You're going to find it there, and all of our sessions will be posted there by the end of this week. And then that's where you're going to go and find new information. So that's all for me. I want to again say thanks. I hope that we get to meet each other in person very soon, but who knows what that will look like. I wish all of you the absolute best in your upcoming year, and just thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.